can't stand Ice Cube.
That's crazy.
I'm not a fan of him lyrically or acting-wise.
Really?
Put hands on you, give you real black eyes. Come on, don't do that. And that's the truth. I've had about
Yeah. He said nothing.
Is he a comedian?
Yeah.
Because he ain't never made me laugh, so I don't know.
Comedian Aries Spears was chastised by 50 Cent for mocking West Coast icon Ice Cube. Hostilities erupted in the entertainment industry. This is now a full-fledged conflict since Aries has retaliated.
That's crazy.
I'm not a fan of him lyrically or acting-wise.
Really?
He's the same.
How much time we got left here? Because should I just tell him to leave now?
Began it all by disparaging Cub's reputation in a podcast, claiming that the rapper-turned-business entrepreneur was overhyped and more Hollywood than hip-hop. 50 Cent rejected it. Ice Cube paved the way for all of us, he wrote angrily on his Instagram.
You don't think that...
One of the songs I hate the most, if it comes on, I want to shoot the radio. Today was a good day.
Acting like a pioneer is impossible if your name is no longer resonating. He even made a derogatory remark, calling Aries a washed-up comedian in an attempt to stay current. On his own live feed, Aries Spears said within hours that the criticism was an emotional exaggeration and that 50 was riding coattails.
He goes, here's Ice Cube as a gynecologist. Hey, Miss Chickens, I looked at your...
He intensified his criticism, claiming he was merely expressing his viewpoint of Ice Cube's transformation from street rapper to family-friendly movie star. There are differing opinions among supporters. While some recognize Aries' right to free speech, others support Cub's history. But one thing is obvious. Usually a fight that starts with 50 people doesn't end in silence. This is only going to become hotter because both sides are doubling down. In response, Ice Cube, the vocalist behind one of the worst diss songs in hip-hop history, No Vaseline, takes a vacation from his multi-billion-dollar business ventures. It expresses how serious the situation is.
I'm the poster child for the world's biggest hater. If you look up the word hate, it's my picture. When did we get to a point where unless your opinion, and last time I checked as human beings, we're all allowed to opinions. At what point does it get to where unless your opinion is favorable about a person or a thing and goes with the flow of everyone else, you're a hater? I don't understand it.
Not just a comedian. Aries Spears was making fun of Ice Cube. He attacked Ice Cube verbally during his visit to Big Boy's neighborhood, disparaging his acting, discography, and even his cultural background in general. Spears, a rapper and actor, called Ice Cube garbage. The remarks were not disregarded by them. Ice Cube responded quickly, calling Spears irrelevant, unfunny, and no better than other black comedians. Then it could have been finished. Then, however, 50 Cent came up in conversation. Not even 50, who was infamous for making fun of people who were already being attacked, could stop it. All the time originated from a conversation that was meant to be amicable. Big Boy brought up the subject of rapper rankings, which is a common conversation starter in barbershops. However, Aries Spears deviated from the plan. When Ice Cube's name was announced, Spears acted without thinking. At once, he began to criticize. And it was just the start of it. He later mimicked the West Coast song It Was a Good Day, which is considered to be one of the most famous songs ever. Even after Big Boy's co-host tried to lighten the mood by shifting the subject, Aries Spears remained firm. He performed a ridiculous Ice impersonation instead, considering that Cube is a gynecologist. One phrase ended with an odd line that made everyone at the table pause. Aries laughed at his own joke, but there was no sign of it in the room. There was nothing from the co-host. Big Boy tried again to change the topic to something neutral, but Aries wouldn't let up, and he was not done yet. He verbally assaulted Tupac Shakur shortly after, which made the situation worse. It was no longer an attack on artists personally. The insult to the hip-hop heritage of the West Coast spread. Where honoring the legends is a cornerstone, this behavior was deemed excessive. Aries Spears was also a skilled performer. At one point, recognizing the commotion he was causing, he even turned to face the camera. It was a prompt reaction. Aries' talent is admirable, but the Ice Cube disrespect is excessive, one spectator said. Another observer said, "This is why Aries loses credibility, calling out legends like Pac or Cube. It's bitterness from the East after the West took over in the 80s and 90s. Spears, however, probably didn't expect the very luminaries he attacked to remain silent. Small arguments are usually ignored by famous individuals, but this time it was all different when they decided to answer honestly. However, this time was different. The cool accuracy of someone who has seen it all before was Ice Cube's response. He didn't raise his voice or add to the chaos. He instead challenged Aries Spears' cultural and humorous status. In today's Black Eye comedy scene, Cube questioned whether Aries was still relevant, as he had never really earned a place at the table. This was more than just self-protection. One of the most well-known hip-hop diss songs was created by Ice Cube, who deliberately destroyed Aries Spears' career credibility by making use of his prior experience producing rhymes for NWA. By starting the Friday Business and the Big Three Basketball League, Ice Cube brought attention to his fortune in both sports and entertainment. However, Aries Spears fought back against public criticism from fans and industry experts. Instead, he stepped up. Reiterating the same accusations and showing no remorse for his stance, he doubled down and delivered his message to Vlad TV. Making fun of Ice Cube was audacious at first, but he resumed the act when the repercussions became almost reckless. The fact that Ice Cube wasn't the only one involved escaped Aries' notice. Because somewhere in an opulent suite, 50 Cent was silently observing. The uproar, the interviews, and the mention of his name were enough to get his attention. The crowd was starting to think that 50 Cent would overlook the mayhem until he finally made his move. His Instagram featured a mysterious video that was filled with subtle barbs and his typical passive-aggressive tone. Adoption of the declaration was swift among the supporters. "I didn't just post this." Although it was aimed directly at Aries Spears, he was never named by name. In the most systematic manner conceivable, you can declare someone delusional with just 50. But the true question is, what led 50 Cent to become engaged in the first place? He has other initiatives going on, after all. Managing well-known television assets like Power and BMF, marketing alcoholic beverage brands, signing talent contracts, and going on tour around the globe. He has a lot of things to do, so why should this specific scenario be addressed? Many people are unaware of the long-standing respect that Ice Cube and 50 Cent have for one another. Long before mainstream Hollywood recognized his achievements in television and film, Ice Cube openly backed his move from music to film. That was what they remembered. 50 has repeatedly recognized Cub's impact throughout the years in interviews and business talks. Aries and Spears exemplifies the kind of celebrity that 50 Cent has always viewed negatively. Forceful, boisterous, and frequently deviant from the norm. 50 makes some of his most enlightening comments in that same lane. There was more to his remark than light shadow. It was lyrical, direct, and deliberate. "Check my temperature," he pointed out. "My body is freezing. The hood caused my left chest to freeze. Are you having trouble paying your bills? You'll get a referral from me. They can even give you a contract for love." When it struck its target, the post seemed to irritate Aries Spears. Nearly instantly, he went into a furious rant. This time, the problem is the whole thing, not just Ice Cube. He was obviously exhausted by the heat, yet the narrative was far from over. But the story didn't end there. It is evident that Aries Spears was influenced by Ice Cube's remarks. Touched a nerve, but he didn't back down. Instead, he continued forward motion. Even more complicated was the fact that Aries Spears contradicted himself in the middle of the argument. In one line, he stated that he respected Ice Cube as a man. However, in the very next, Cube had never done anything significant, he said in one statement. Nothing in acting or music. The remark was not interpreted as critical. It was viewed as inconsistent. And that's precisely why the online backlash grew so powerful. Due to his controversial views, he was not singled out by his detractors. When it came full circle, he tried to play the victim after changing his views, which was the main complaint. A person stated, "You can't throw a hot take out there and get upset when the response is just as direct. After that skit, you're not valid, but you have the right to your opinion," said another participant. It produces the Ice Cube. However, that remark struck Spears in the most hurtful spot. A memory of one of his darkest periods. Suddenly, verbal arguments with well-known hip-hop musicians were no longer the only thing going on. The 2022 lawsuit. between Tiffany Haddish and Aries Spears became the topic of conversation. In a heartbreaking court battle, the two were the subject of serious accusations, including grooming allegations. The funny sketch at the center of the controversy was widely regarded as being completely inappropriate. Within the satire, Spears plays an odd adult left to parent a youngster. The individual that criticism was swift due to the awkward tone and the extended focus of the camera. But regrettably for Aries Spears, it didn't end there. As more people began to reflect on it in light of his current public behavior, the problem only grew worse. The reaction was swift and extensive. Outrage flooded Twitter after the video was posted on websites like The Shade Room. It wasn't very good. Even after the lawsuit was eventually settled and the video was taken down from the internet, Aries Spears' reputation was still damaged. What did Aries do next? He went back to Vlad TV. The audience soon realized that Aries, Spears made more appearances on Vlad TV than Vlad himself, complaining about the company, claiming that he should be as popular as comedians like Kevin Hart, and griping about being banned. It began to occur often. The pattern started to repeat itself for the supporters. He was more interested in talking than in performing. He was not getting major parts in comedy circles or new stand-up material. Instead, he became well known through media repackaging of historical events, industrial outbursts, aggressive interviews, and theatrics. The story was changed. Spears was now more closely linked to feuds, and her status as an active musician had shifted. Criticisms and revisiting old subjects in an attempt to keep the audience informed. That isn't the whole tale, though. Numerous former co-stars have publicly characterized him as challenging to work with, pointing to fierce competition, ego problems, and a demanding workplace. According to reports, there was a culture where rivalry frequently took the place of cooperation. Without a question, he has talent. He can read a crowd and has keen impressions. But unlike so many of his contemporaries, Aries Spears never achieved the moment that characterized the industry despite those skills. The autograph that transformed his career was never given to him. Unique, the type that leaves a lasting impression. And dissatisfaction increases when such a potential never materializes. Eventually, that annoyance could become resentment. Let's change our perspective right away. Why was this public feud so devastating to Aries Spears? The solution is simple. A cultural pillar is being targeted by anyone who targets Ice Cube. Let's examine why that is so important in more detail. The impact, cleverness, and unwavering performance of No Vaseline, which is still considered to be among the greatest 3 diss tracks in hip-hop history, are highly appreciated. On Friday, it increased, not merely a comedy. It created iconic characters, influenced an entire generation of black film, and raised the standard for comedy that speaks to the culture. Ice Cube developed the Big 3 League, a fully functional professional basketball league that was eventually backed by prominent investors and former NBA players. The league began as a niche idea before gaining international recognition. Ice Cube was already recognized as one of the most prolific ghostwriters in West Coast rap history prior to all of this. When he was still in his teens, he wrote rhymes for artists like MC Ren, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and others, helping to establish NWA and West Coast hip-hop. On the other hand, Aries Spears' oddball stand-up and TV impersonations are her most well-known professional appearances. Appearances and are increasingly recognized for igniting controversy instead of amusement. His influence on culture is minimal. A swift and well-organized protest was triggered by his decision to target someone like Ice Cube. As a result, Ice Cube became quite popular with the public. Then came the last twist. Ice Cube teased the cast of the much-awaited Final Friday show. The name of Aries Spears was conspicuously missing. The timing raised few doubts, but no official statement verified whether he was ever considered. Fans assumed Cub was silently closing the door. Thus, regardless of how many sounds Aries can replicate, his name will not be on the cast list where legacy is most important. At last, Aries Spears had the recognition he desired. But there was a price for it. The reason for his current notoriety is not his skill or sense of humor, but rather the fact that 2 legends rejected him and that no one stood up for him. Feel free to share your opinions in the space provided for comments below. Did Aries Spears make a mistake in the beginning, or should she have taken a different approach? Please remember to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you liked this analysis. It greatly aids in our ability to continue supplying things. Thank you for viewing, and don't forget to watch the next.